a couple of years ago, I had made 2 videos on the top 10 worst and best Mario Party minigames. And by the time I was finishing up the best minigames video, I had noticed that all my picks for both episodes were exclusive to the first 4 games. In fact, I even jokingly commented on my oversight at the beginning of it. So I figured, well, why not do a volume 2 of the best and worst minigames, but focus solely on 5-8 this time around. Now, this isn't a redo of my choices back in early 2015. I still stand by those videos. Dungeon duos will never be dethroned. But even if this was a redo, honestly my choices wouldn't have changed that much for the best minigames, since after Mario Party 4, a lot of the minigames weren't as creative or fun, and sometimes straight up boring. But because of it, I think it could be fun to find some of the worst in this era of Mario Party. So, let's get into the top 10 worst Mario Party minigames, Volume 2. Mario Party 7 introduced a pretty interesting concept, being able to play with 8 players locally. 2 players would each hold the GameCube controller using a stick and trigger as their own personal A button and joystick. This was a pretty creative move back in 2005. Online play for consoles hadn't become fully mainstream yet, it's not like many people had the LAN adapter for the GameCube, and even to this day 8-player local play barely exists, so I give them a lot of credit for trying this out. For the most part it works pretty well. You can play a full round of Mario Party and not have it feel gimmicky, well, with a few exceptions. And a lot of the 8-player minigames are a lot of fun, with a couple of them being throwbacks to some of the best minigames during the golden era. So you're probably asking, well, why the hell are you bringing them up if you think they were pretty good? Well, for everyone who watches this, let me ask. Have you ever played 8-player mode with at least 4 other people? I bet you 9 times out of 10 the answer is no. So these are minigames that you're never gonna play, or play them properly at least. This is kind of a shame because, like I said, majority of them are pretty fun. But hell, even if you were one of the lucky few who got to try 8-player mode out properly, you still wouldn't play them that much, since in that mode you only play them when the game decides you can. Not to mention, a couple of them are better suited for one player to take control of both characters. Some may disagree with this choice or feel it to be a cop-out, and I'll respect you if you feel that way. But no matter how good a minigame could be, it doesn't mean much if you're never going to be able to play it under its intended circumstances. Or at all, for that matter. Doors of Doom might have been stupid beyond belief, but at least nothing was holding you back from playing it. Well, besides common sense. Whenever I play Mario Party, some of the minigames I look forward to playing the most is the ones where the goal is to collect as many coins as possible. Besides the fact that you know you're going to walk away with something, I also find it really fun to try and beat my own personal best with how many coins I collect. And there's probably no better feeling when you're able to hit 30 plus coins. In the past, some have been really fun, some have been okay, but then you have this one. This is fucking stupid. You know you're running out of ideas when this becomes a minigame. All you do is hit the dice block as many times as you can in 20 seconds and hope for the best. There's absolutely no skill involved with this one. And yes, there's plenty of minigames that rely entirely on luck, but this isn't even a luck factor minigame. This is just boring. Sure, it has the aspect that you know you're gonna walk away with at least something, well, unless you got real shit luck. But minigames are meant to break up the slow-paced board gameplay, not emulate it for fuck's sakes. I put this one near the bottom of the list mainly because while I'm not impressed with it at all, in the end it's not like you're gonna lose, and chances are you'll at least break 10 coins. But this is one of those minigames where I just want to get it over and done with because it's fucking stupid! Hey, you want to know the secret to make Cointagious even more stupid and boring and retarded and dumb and lazy? Well, instead of hitting the dice block as many times as you can, how about being only allowed to hit the dice block once or 3 times depending on what team you're on to display a math question? Why? Why was this a thing? This is something you would see on Happening Space, or wait, this is just a glorified blue dice block from Mario Party 1 where if it popped up, whatever you rolled was the amount of coins you got. I'd much rather have that back than something that has no right to be a full-blown minigame. Who thought this would be fun? At the very least, Cointagious pretended to give off the illusion of skill. Even though this one came before Mario Party 7, it's still just as pathetic. Someone should be ashamed of themselves for making mathletes in Cointagious. Ugh. Mario Party has never been shy about reusing old minigame types for newer games. Many times you can point out and say, oh, so it's this game's version of such minigame and so on and so forth. In Mario Party 8, this was no exception for a good chunk of them. They revisited a lot of earlier minigames for Mario Party 1 and 2. And I'll give them credit as for the most part they were either as good as the originals they were based off of, or they came pretty close. But of course they weren't solely ripping off 1 and 2, but there was one that I honestly felt was really redundant, mainly because it doesn't even come close to what the minigame is being based off of. Until New Super Mario Bros. Wii became the pack-in game, unless you bought your Wii used, chances are the first game you played was Wii Sports. And I'm also betting a lot of your time went towards bowling. Why not, right? It's arguably the most popular mode from this glorified tech demo. I know I played it the most. So Hudson Soft must have saw the popularity of it and decided to add their own version of bowling to Mario Party 8. Not a bad idea. Slap this little fat fuck's face on any sports title and it's bound to sell some units. But you gotta make it worth playing. This is such a step backwards from the generic tech demo. Everything feels so stiff and lifeless, and that's saying something when Wii Sports is probably the most soulless game ever. If you're gonna rip off the system seller's most popular mode, you better make it on par with it at the very least, otherwise why bother? Cause a good chunk of people might have had Mario Party 8, but everyone had Wii Sports. You cannot half-ass that shit. Button prompt minigames are nothing new. They've been around since the beginning and range from really good to, well, really fucking stupid. Usually the best ones are trying to see how many you can push correctly in a time limit, or they're testing your memory. But some of them are just here, push the button we tell you to. And while I feel they're the weaker minigames of this type, usually it's 1 versus 3 minigames that try this. And there could be fun trying to work together. And if you know anything about Mario Party, working as a team doesn't always work that well. Which means panic usually sets in and it can be a little entertaining. But what happens when you turn it into a dual minigame and attention and chaos is gone? You get hip, hop, drop. Hands down one of the most boring minigames in my opinion. All you're doing is being shown what button to push next, push the right one, and you move on to the next one. If you somehow happen to mess up and push the wrong button, well, you pretty much lost with any competent player. I don't know, maybe it can be exciting to see a photo finish to see who wins by the milliseconds, but I don't know. I just never got into this one. At least older minigames of this type had hazards on the track to make things a little bit more interesting, but this? Starting with Mario Party 3, the series introduced final boss-like minigames. Some of them were actually pretty good where it felt like they could have rivaled a main series final boss in terms of gameplay and presentation. Well, to an extent. Some were okay, but then there was this one. Notice there's a bit of a theme with dice blocks this time around? So the goal of the game is to reach the 100th floor by hitting 4 dice blocks all the while you try and dodge Bowser's attacks. That's it. You either try to marathon when you unlock it, or you and an opponent take turns trying to reach the top first. Now, I'll give it credit that it does add a uniqueness to the final board since you use stars as payment to play it, but that's all I can really think of to compliment it, because compared to all the other final boss type minigames, and not just 5-8, but every entry, it just doesn't even come close. At least in the other ones, it feels like a battle or a bunch of trials you have to overcome to win. Here, again, it's just hitting dice blocks, and you try and dodge attacks once in a while. Whoop-de-fucking-do. It might be different, but that's all it really has going for it. It's not the worst minigame I've ever played, but certainly one of the more disappointing ones. Cointages and Mathletes might technically be more stupid and a waste of space, but screwing up the final boss minigame is a far greater Mario Party sin than those fucking pieces of shit. Yeah. This next one is bad, and for all the right reasons. Do I even have to say anything about this minigame? The tutorial speaks for itself. Oh yes, there was no way I could not talk about this one. This is one of those minigames where it makes you wonder, how the hell did it get past the developers? Or the ESRB, for Christ's sakes! There's just no words to describe how oblivious they were. I know what it looks like, you know what it looks like. But for the pure few who don't know what it looks like, I kind of envy your innocence, by the way. I'm about to show you. Scarred you for life? Good, because I almost punched myself you know where. But the best part about it is the way it ends. Like, come on, the developers had to have known what the fuck they were doing here. There's just no way people could be that naive, even for Nintendo-related stuff. It's rude, it's crude, but goddamn, it's fucking hilarious. I love it. So when I was making this list, I pretty much knew that I was putting Shake It Up on the list somewhere, just for how absurd it was, cause there was no way I was gonna pass up an easy joke like that. Hey, I try to be as original as much as I can, so throw me a bone. Actually, no, don't do that. But I figured that was probably the most preferred I was gonna get with a list based on Mario Party, and there was absolutely no way to top that, right? Yeah, kinda right, but goddamn, I found something almost as fucked up, and it's from Mario Party 8 too, and it's not even the game itself! It's just that goddamn name! So, Mosh Pit Playroom. Seems simple and innocent enough. Just collect all 50 balls of your color, nothing wrong with that. Hell, in most parts of the world there is nothing wrong. Let's check the names in the other languages, shall we? Also, expect butchering of these words. So in Japanese, it's Atsumete Karaboru, means collect color ball. Yep, that's what you do. Spanish, it's bolava, ball goes, okay, nothing wrong there. In French, it's la balle au bon, or the ball on the rebound, okay, again, nothing dirty. German is pogo party, what? Why the fuck is it called pogo? Well, whatever, anyway. Last and certainly not least is Italian. Palin birishine. You ready for it? You really want to know? You can't unsee it after I ruin this minigame for you guys. Okay. Naughty balls. Naughty balls! Naughty fucking balls that need some release, so shake it up! There's just no way. Oh, my balls have been so naughty, time to shake it up and let it explode! Yeah! You see how easy it is to turn something so innocent into something so dirty and disgusting? You are very welcome. Okay, so back to serious picks. Button masher minigames have been around since the beginning. In many cases, they can be a fun little adrenaline rush as you break your thumb in the button on the controller. I think it's a safe bet that most people enjoy these minigames because they're simple and a fun way to be competitive, despite most never breaking the formula. I'm sure some groan a bit when they see one and think, oh god, can't we have something original here? Well, one tried to be, and to be honest, it's pretty dumb how they went about it, so yeah, this is Sub-Marathon, a 2 vs 2 minigame where the goal is to button mash until one team sub passes the finish line. Pretty standard stuff, except for one thing. If you were a betting man or woman, you would probably think that both players on each team has to button mash, right? Well, I would think so too, and thinking about it, it would probably make things more interesting since everyone would be hitting it at different points due to stamina. That would be cool, but no! How about a 2-player minigame where one player on each team does all the work? Sounds stupid? Yeah, I know! But that's what this minigame is all about. The idea is that if one player gets tired, then they can switch and have the other player take over. But every time you switch, that's time you're not able to button mash, so it defeats the purpose. Your best chance of winning is just to have the one player tough it out. I appreciate the uniqueness and in a way make a button masher minigame not so strenuous on the fingies, but not allowing the second player to do much for most of or none of the race is pretty fucking stupid. Honestly, if a lot of minigames were like this, what would be the point of even playing Mario Party? Dumb fucks. Anyone who watched my original top 10 worst minigames will know that Doors of Doom was my number 10 pick. I felt that it was a pretty pointless game as there was no tips, tricks, or skill involved in it. Like I said, pick a door and hope for the best. Now, if you remember, while I didn't really care for Doors of Doom, I made it a point to put it at the bottom of the list simply because it was harmless. It was one of those bonus minigames where you'd see in the rec room area of Mario Party. It couldn't do you any harm since you couldn't play it in the main game and have its bullshit 50-50 luck factor fucking you over. If it did, it definitely would have been a lot higher on the list, so crisis averted. But then Mario Party 6 happened and introduced us to Pitfall, essentially Doors of Doom, but now it can do harm, and a lot of harm for that matter. And because of that, something went from 10 to 1. You sick motherfuckers, you just couldn't leave it alone, eh? You gotta make fucking Doors of Doom a game that has consequences in the main fucking game? You fucking dumb. Okay, so this is a minigame that has you and your opponent pick a rope to swing over to a ledge that you can't see. Whoever picked correctly wins. If you both pick the wrong one, then a fly guy will pick up the fallen by random and they'll win. This is exactly like Doors of Doom. Just like the Doors, pick a rope and hope for the best. No skill, no clues, no fuck all. It's like I'm reenacting my pick from 2 years ago. The thing is, this wouldn't be so bad if it's just a 4-player minigame and the winner just won 10 coins. But this is a goddamn duel minigame. And anyone who's played Mario Party knows that a duel can sometimes be just as catastrophic as chance time. Yeah, big man betting all them coins. Can you got the skill to win? Well, put your money where your mouth is. Then you get robbed because the game decides to pick the computer over you. Yeah, like that wasn't rigged. Fucking cocksucker.